Hello and welcome to another edition of The Last Review. This is your host, sergeifencewick, not my real name. And in this very special episode, we're going to take a look at the Matt Walsh Show and how this conservative commentator broke a few rules and more than a few brains along the way. Is he reliable like clockwork? Or more like a broken clock, right twice a day? Let's dig in.
What is a woman? Can you tell me that? Well, you're at the Women's March. You must have some idea. Please, if one person can tell me what a woman is.
You are not here for women. We ask you to leave.
What is that?
I'm a husband. I'm a father of four. I host a talk show. I give speeches. I write books. I like to make sense of things.
A woman is not anything in particular.
There is not one particular thing.
It could be many things to many people.
Can a man become a woman?
I'm not a woman, so I can't really answer that.
And so they go on the internet and they're told that all of their problems will be solved if they become a man.
So you worry that there could be a sort of social contagion element of this?
A teeny tiny bit, maybe.
Affirming it with hormones that have never been used in this way.
Puberty blockers, which are completely reversible.
One of the drugs used is Lupron, right? Which has actually been used to chemically castrate sex offenders.
You know what? I'm not sure that we should continue with this interview.
So you don't want to talk about the drugs that you give to kids, or?
How can this whole thing be happening, Matt?
I wanted us to have a safe place to be able to talk about this.
Part of me wants to ask why you care so much.
I care about the truth. I care about children. I care about the women who are having their opportunities stolen from them.
Is it transphobic to tell the truth?
The interview's over. Let's turn off the cameras.
Excuse me.
They're fair question. I just wanted to know, what is a woman?
And you're not going to find out.
Based on what I'm saying, would you ever want to move to America?
They say no, never.
Comedic news host Matt Walsh's documentary, What is a Woman, did more than further an international discussion over transgenderism and the LGBTQ movement. He made a worthwhile film that looked to set parameters around the debate. He set out to define gender terms and essentially the rules of engagement, because how can we effectively argue or debate if we talk past each other and disagree on definitions? Moreover, he moved beyond the typical Ben Shapiro owns college student viral moments and went to those who claim authority on the issue, professors and doctors. It was a bold move that paid off because he looked more reasonable and sophisticated than the so-called experts who were unable to effectively answer a straightforward question. What is a woman? Walsh rode the film's success to exponentially increased popularity. The long-running, multi-platform news rundown show, The Matt Walsh Show, became worth searching out to watch. His conservative and more traditional values would normally make him easy to pigeonhole or even disregard, but he's all too savvy and aware of the clout-chasing, cancellation-raising, outrage-addicted culture. Whether it was sparring on a show or online with U.S. Congresswoman AOC after she tried to score some cheap sympathy points, or with South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem over misogyny, or with the Cancel Brigade after he spoke of teenage marriage, he either 1. Comes out looking extremely clever, or 2. Comes out looking defiant because of his refusal to apologize and looking like someone to champion by his fans. Depending on the situation, he either looks better to the public at best, or at worst looks better to just his fan base. His seemingly wholesome views with a cutting-edge delivery is a clever combination. Peel away some layers, though, and you're going to get some mixed results. Some strengths emerge first. Far-left advocates would respect his views on international affairs. Walsh spotlights news that are clearly anti-war or anti-intervention. He doesn't necessarily subscribe to anti-empire efforts, but he does agree with the anti-war left on the various costs to folks in the U.S. Why wouldn't the U.S. use hundreds of billions of dollars to help its own citizens instead of using the money to destroy others? Even political moderates would likely respect his views on the transgendered athletes in sports or in locker rooms. Things like fair competition and general biological advantages are unmistakable. Even working class folks would like his jabs at out-of-touch Hollywood execs, or even a more elitist commentator like David Pakman, who had no issue taking in a condescending laugh fest at a trucker when it was clear English was not his first language. And yes, Walsh handled Pakman quite easily. But Walsh gets impatient to drive his point home. If he feels like he's in the vicinity of being right, he's prone to making a few leaps in order to skip scrutiny and make himself right. Some of these leaps are embarrassingly big, and some are small. In a bigger moment on the ever-popular Joe Rogan Experience, despite making a documentary on transgenderism and medical practices, Walsh assumed and stated millions of kids were on puberty blockers, and then got drastically different pieces of evidence proving him wrong on the show. On the smaller side of things, he built an intricate case for how the new Snow White is racist against whites.
Exclusive photos from the set of Disney's new woke Snow White live-action remake. As we know, Disney is in the process of slowly cannibalizing itself, eating away at its own legacy until soon, mercifully, there will be nothing left. They are recreating all of their own classic films, releasing new lifeless remake versions that are similar to the old versions, except shorn of all the charm and creativity and humor and beauty and, all that stuff you don't need. Disney responds by frantically blaming every new failure on racism and bigotry. This is their marketing strategy. Put out a crappy movie and then claim that anyone who doesn't buy a ticket is a Nazi. As we can see in the pictures, not only is Snow White not white, but the dwarves are not dwarves anymore. Behind the Hispanic Snow White, we see what appears to be a group of patrons just leaving the local Renaissance fair. They certainly don't look anything like people who get up in the morning and go work in the mines, or work anywhere else for that matter. The 7 dwarves have become 7 unemployed gypsies. And there appears to be only one dwarf in the bunch, because apparently the most politically correct thing is to take jobs away from dwarf actors and give them to regular-sized people. Zegler's casting already sparked a limited but loud backlash from a handful of people opposed to the casting of a Latina Snow White. But the mixed race and gender group of dwarves also sparked fresh backlash from Twitter users like Libs of TikTok and right-wing commentator Matt Walsh, who threw little temper tantrums. It's also an example of actual cultural appropriation. Okay, so when you hear this term cultural appropriation, you're wondering, what does that look like? Well, it looks like this. It looks like a Latina Snow White. It is racist to make Snow White not white because they are treating the whiteness of the character as a flaw that needs to be fixed. The lead actress in the film has even said as much, that they're fixing it.
Huh? Here's the issue with that. When Latina actress and star Rachel Zegler talked about fixing Snow White, she was actually referring to modern womanhood. Walsh projects racist views onto her that aren't there. He distorts her quote to prop up his defense of the case, all for his own victimhood. And that becomes an unfortunate recurring theme for Walsh and his show. He wants to be the righteous victim and avenging angel. He contends that there's anti-white and anti-Christian sentiment on many occasions, but has also waved off many claims by racial minorities that they're being discriminated against. He fights against anti-whiteness, while making it a point to imply, but not outright say, anti-black sentiment by featuring videos of black people with description of them as animals, or routinely listing race in his descriptions of crimes when a black person is the perpetrator. He peddles racial violence for clicks. He then sees anti-whiteness when it's not there. He had entire segments on his show dedicated to the label of Karen, being anti-white racism and sexism. Taking just one step out of his bubble, or even reading his own viewers' comments, would have shown how Karen is used for just about anyone who is annoying, a stickler, or a certain kind of complainer. Is Matt Walsh a Karen? Maybe. He explicitly downplays or denies other claims of racism only to want to speak to the manager about these Karen slur concerns. He's trying to have it both ways. Most shows will have their blind spots, though, and Walsh's show may have one as it concerns race. But the race debate is complex, especially in America. However, distorting facts can take someone's credibility down a notch, and going one step too far can take an argument down completely. For instance, his immensely popular and much talked about documentary, What is a Woman?, pushed for some clarity on defining transgenderism debates and spent a good deal of time on protecting children. But then, under the LGBTQ umbrella and with the shield of religion, he argues against gay marriage on The Rogan Show, and on his own show purposely misreads a Supreme Court decision to say we are not slaves to gay activists, and states that Jesus would deliver hatred to the trans movement. He goes too far and attacks instead of proving. The reasonable man in the documentary is replaced by a social justice warrior on a warpath. It's hard to agree with a tyrant who takes things too far. He's hurting his show and even his movement, just as the blue-haired college kids did for their own cause when Ben Shapiro used to totally own and destroy them in his viral videos. To his credit, though, he puts his money where his mouth is. He's not putting all of this out there just for money. He's actively involved in multiple pieces of local and state legislation regarding the topics he discusses on his show. A lot of his personal time and effort go to making a difference about these topics. One cannot mistake his sincerity in that regard, even if one is left wondering if we're getting 100% of the facts on his show when he loosely creates a narrative. Just as the culture wars starting in the early 2010s made stars out of academics like Jonathan Haidt, Christina Hoff Sommers, and Jordan Peterson, and made YouTube stars out of Shuan Head and Steven Crowder, the next stage of the wars, the woke wars, have made a star out of Matt Walsh. Walsh is committed to his show and his mission on correcting the record on gender and children. But let's hope he stays stalwart on being 100% committed to facts, unlike previous times. Let's hope that he fights to protect kids in the real world instead of fighting kids on TikTok or Snow White like he has on multiple episodes. Let's hope that he doesn't hold himself back and flunk a grade, and instead graduates to the levels he reached before in the documentary, where he successfully challenged authority and reshaped the way some looked at social news. For Walsh, it's time to step up. It's time to graduate. Thank you for watching or listening. Please like and subscribe and share this video with as many people as you want. Post in the comments if there are any shows you want to see reviewed. We'll have an official rating system coming out soon. I also have a developing website and social media accounts. You can subscribe to those too. Thank you for that.